This time on Captain Cass's laboratory, we're working on the zombie fortress. Here's the balloon that hangs right here. This was sent to me because it doesn't work. Go figure. I did notice something was broke off. That's how it came in the box. I'm sure it was probably a zombie figure or something. But nothing. No lights, no sounds, no nothing. In most cases, I'd say it's a bad motor. It could be a broken wire. We're going to find out. So let's figure out how to get into this thing. For those who've never seen it before, this hangs right there, and then it spins around. These guys spin in one direction, and this spins in the opposite direction. And how I can tell is if you move this, you can see these characters. You can see the characters trying to move because they're on the same gearbox. So set this out of the way. We're going to plug that for a moment. Looking through here, I can see there's a circuit board right there behind this zombie where it says warning zombie crossing. I also can see that this is a plastic lip. This is a resin house. And this plastic lip is separating, which probably controls everything up here. But before we just break the top half off and take a look, let's open up the bottom and see what we can see. Now, the biggest issue is this doesn't come out. And setting this down, it hits. So, gotta be mindful of the hook. It's a 4.5 volt house if you don't have it and you're interested in it. So it uses the standard AC power adapter from Lemax. If you're into the zombie theme, then it should work out pretty good for you. Fire up some hot air here. There we go. Feels like it's mostly just stuck around the edges. There's a lot of dead space in here. Center and the edges, and then all around it is just spongy, hollow feeling. So. This one doesn't want to come off, even with the heat. All the heat's doing is making it more tacky. Normally the heat will start to break the glue down, but this is just making it stick more. Let's see if I can get it with this this style spudger. I hate to do it, but I might have to just cut the center out. All I'm doing is tearing up the mat, tearing it badly. So now we can see why there's a big hollow spot. bottom of this house is porcelain. This is plastic, and I think this is resin. So this piece is porcelain or ceramic. Bear with me for a moment while I work on getting this off real quick. Alright, sorry about that. And I did get it finally apart. It took about 5 minutes. I tried, but it's just a pile of shredded foam. Anyhow, here's the bottom. And here's the circuit board, which normally attaches to these pins right here. But this only had a dab of glue on one pin because you can't lay it sideways because of the blob chip board. But I unplugged the motor. The motor's up in here. There's another circuit board. And lights. So, there you go. So it has a shorted motor, which is the most common cause for complete failure or complete shutdown. I'm going to lift it back up and show you all the inside. But before I do that, I'm going to unplug the speaker so it's not dangling. It's on this lower board that says SP for speaker. And those are the pins I'm talking about that this circuit board should be pressed in, but it's only on one pin with a small dab of glue holding it. And I'm now going to show you the inside. So, here's the main board with the blob chip right there. There is an auxiliary board right here, right there, which that pin in the back is unplugged, which is this wire here, which is the motor. So with the motor out, bam, everything works. But if you look in here, there's no way to get to the motor. So if you have this piece and you have a bad motor, tearing the bottom off isn't going to do any good. And sorry to Suzanne that I tore the bottom off to access it to find out it didn't work. I will put a standard black mat on the bottom so that way it still has foam. It just won't say Lemax anymore. So I'm going to tuck the circuit board up inside. It'll rest on the inside of the ledge. And we're going to stand this thing up. I'm going to move this so I have a stable surface. This plastic piece here is going to have to come off to get to the motor that's underneath. That's all I can see by looking up through the bottom. There are no screws on the bottom. Everything comes in from the top. That's actually horrible. Actually, it might be easier to remove this piece. I'm going to have to use a magnifier and take a look. I'm going to use the magnifier here since my magnifier specs are not in the room at the moment. I'm looking through the windows. Let's see what's in. Does it light up in there? Yes, it does. Okay. I see the armature shaft that goes all the way to the top. That's one of the nice things about pieces that have holes in the walls is you can take a peek inside and see how it works. I've got some big holes over here. I see the wires for the lights. I'm going to, yeah. So we have to figure out how to get this top piece off. So we're going to work on that here in just a moment. All right. So after peeking through with these, I just went and got my goggle ones because they're a little bit better magnifier. It's getting hard to see. Got a pretty decent hole right here to see inside. And then you have another one over here. Everything is attached to the bottom plate. This black plastic that has the lip to center this. So, but if you pop this off, you gotta remember there's wires in here. This green light, this white light, that green light, so on and so forth. This green light should be bent out, like so. But, and if you take this plastic plate off, you have all the wires plus the two lights in the front here. So this is going to be an interesting one to pop open. all the gears. Well, where I'm going to start, and it's a 50-50 chance that I'm right, is I'm going to try and pop the big plastic base. That's where I'm going to start. Since it already has a couple of loose corners. Start there. Yeah, this corner's loose. This corner's loose. This corner's kind of loose. That corner's not. So before I apply heat, I'm just going to see if the glue is brittle enough just to break. I think it was like one of the other houses that had the rotating drum inside. Normally the glue is brittle and it comes right off. That's what it's doing here. It sounds horrible. It sounds like it's breaking everything. All it's doing is breaking the glue. If you do this yourself, you can feel the difference between cracking glue and non-cracking glue. You can feel it in the tension on the tool and the sound. Voila. So, here's our mechanism. And one light stayed attached here and the other light stayed attached here. That's kind of interesting. It's just the way the glue works. So now you can see the base. And you can see the motor goes right here. And if I plug it in, boop, power's out. See? So I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to separate this from the bottom by removing this. Like so. And then I'm going to see if I can get this LED to pop out. Set this down carefully. Alright, LED's out. So now I can remove the base completely. So apparently, my 50-50 guess is 50-50 wrong. You need to pop this piece off. But there's the second board. You might be able to see it okay. You can see the pulley. It's got quite a large belt. And in between is the gears. And the motor is right there. So, now this resin top is glued almost all the way around. So this is going to be a little bit of a treat to pop off. I don't see an area where there's not a lot of glue. Now, I mentioned this before about heating the resin. Resin takes longer to distort from heat. The plastic here doesn't. And when they glue resin to plastic, you can damage the plastic while trying to separate the resin. So you got to be careful. So I'm going to put a tip back on my heat pen to direct the heat. So I'm using a very small tip to direct the heat right at the seam. And fire it up. I'm going to move this out of my way. So this side with the door, right there, has less glue than the side without the doors, or the door. Slowly apply heat. If you have an adjustable temperature, I'm doing this at 200 degrees Celsius as a start. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the resin, and as I heat it, the gloss on the resin changes color, or it's not as clear. So I'm just weakening it as I go around. I would recommend, if this comes off in one piece and you have to do it yourself, to just super glue it back, or excuse me, not hot glue it back on, so when the motor dies again, because they inevitably will, you don't have to do as much work to get it back apart. started to lift a little bit. It's not hot enough yet. Kind of wish these characters were like another 3 or 4 inches over from where they're at. Just a little. Because there's like a perfect pry point right behind this zombie lady that I can't quite get to her. Trying to spin the pulley so I can move her out of my way. See if I can get the spudger in here. This is a very time-consuming process. It is slowly separating. Might take several minutes. I'm just working on 3 of the flat sides at the moment. Normally if you can get at least 50% of it to lift, the other 50% will just break free. But I want to try and get the door and the side to the left and the side to the right, because that's the only side that has a notch that I can fit my spudger in. There we go, she's starting to separate. Alright, so now I got the front half to break free. Now I'm going to heat the back half. So I'm walking the spudgers around, prying up as I walk. So if you do this, you're probably going to need 2 spudgers or possibly 2 blade screwdrivers. It's getting there. It's almost broke free. Of course, you see I keep applying heat. I know it doesn't seem like I apply a lot of heat, but it's really hot, so it doesn't take a long duration to hold it there to start to get the resin to crack or separate. I think we got it to separate. There we go. There we go. Separated. Alrighty. That was a pain. So the next hard part is going to be removing this plate where it covers the motor. As you can see, this resin, you got a screw there, a screw there, screw there, screw there, and they're all underneath this nice, nasty resin that just screws everything up. So, see if I can get these things out. Sometimes I get lucky and the screwdriver will break the resin out, and other times I don't. And this would be one of those times. That's a lot of resin. I was trying to see if this outer wheel would lift out, but it's stuck. It's got a lip that goes under this black plastic, which looks like there might only be 3 screws. One here, one here, one here. I wonder if this oddball that's right here, if I unscrew this, if it would just lift off. Probably not, but we'll try it. Yeah, didn't think so. So I need to get to this screw and this screw. There's a screw underneath all this clear resin, and this is half under. Maybe I got it hot enough that I can peel the resin off. That would be nice. Got some of it. If I can just get the resin to come off the top of these screw heads, that would be great. Like that one there. And can I get this guy to continue? This one, though, is still full of resin. It's all inside of the cross hatching for the blade, or the Phillips. There we go. Hey, 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 look at that. Got it. Alright. Well, this is quite a pain. But there's the mechanism. Look at that. Holy smokums. So, there's the motor. It has failed. Here's your gears. This gear is loose because this gear actually presses onto the bottom of this black plate. And if you can tell, hopefully, everything's shiny is because there's a huge amount of lubrication in here. And that lubrication got inside the motor. So, now we need to see how to get this gray plastic piece to separate from the white plastic on the bottom. And it looks like we got a couple of screws hiding inside these gears. I see one here, and I'm sure there's one underneath this black plate. So let's remove the black plate. And all these screws are the same, so I'm not worried about mixing them up. There we go. Yes, and there is a screw under the black plate. Got some standard hobby gears. Looks like we have a couple of 14-tooth gears right there, which are standard things that break. They're right by this red wire, or these red and black and red and gray wires. Here's the impossible gear that always seems to go bad. Looks okay. I don't see any fractures on the gears. I'm using the magnifiers. We have another impossible gear right here, so this thing has two of them. I'm going to go ahead and remove the 3 screws I can see. And I'm going to see if that separates the bottom so I can get to the screws on this motor. So there's one right here, just below the tan plate. There's one right here in the hole in the middle of the gray base. And then there's one right here that was underneath this black plate, straight down next to the impossible gear. So we're going to screw that. And that one fell inside. And will this come off? No, not yet. Maybe. 1, 2. So all 3 screws are out. And why will this not come up? You're going to have to disassemble the gearbox. So, I would highly recommend taking a picture because there's a lot of gears in here. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to take a picture of this gearbox because it's caught on the gears. There we go. Gearbox has been photographed. And now we're going to remove the gears. I'm going to set them over here. These large outer gears is what's holding it in. Oh my gosh, there's another impossible gear. So this thing has several of them. What, 4? Holy smokes, 4 of these bad boys. They're $20 a piece if you break any of them. So try not to break any of them, especially all of them. So now Now we can get the outer ring out, which has the zombies on it. And we're going to try and center it, because we have a... Hey, 1 second. There's another circuit board in here, I just noticed. It has these red and gray wires here. I'm going to pull them out. They're right behind this door, matter of fact. I need... The red and gray is on the bottom pin, and the red and black is on the top pin. Like that. So now we get that out of the way. Then we might be able to slide this farther out of the way. And then slide this out of the way. And then you have 3 more screws. 1, 2, 3. These 3 screws release the entire bottom assembly, so you can get to the motor screws and the belt. And these screws are different. They're longer and they have a button head. And then those other 3 screws that we pulled out are the ones that go in here. And here's how you get to your motor. And there's your belt. So we're going to take the belt off. And pop out these little screws. Don't lose the screws. And this motor is full of oil or grease. Same stuff, basically. So yeah, that's awesome. That's why it doesn't work. So I need to find a new motor. I thought I had one lying around here, but apparently I used it. I have a shorter motor. It's going to have too short of a shaft. Okay. So once I find the motor, we'll swap it all out and reassemble. But I'm going to put the new motor in and test the wires to make sure that these zombies are walking forward and not doing the moonwalk backwards. So it looks like the only motors I have are these. These are high torque motors, so they spin slower. I don't have any more of the high speed motors apparently. Apparently I am out at the moment. But let's try this, see what it does. It's here, and we can get something done. So. In case you're wondering what the motor says, this should be a standard. It is a SRF 300CA 11,444 revolutions per second. So this is the high speed one. And this guy is like 9,000, so it's slower. I think it's like 8,600, somewhere in there. But I guess moving at any speed is better than being shorted out and non-functional at the moment. So. And get some paper towel, wipe off the excessive amounts of lubrication that are getting into the motor. Lubrication on the gear, totally fine. Lubrication at the mounting plate of the motor, Not good at all. So wipe it off, make it dry. Get rid of that. And now it's time for reassembly. So you can see how much fun it is to take this one apart. So if you have the Zombie Fortress and you have a problem with it, it's going to take you some time to get it apart. You might want to free up your afternoon. But hopefully this video will help you by making it shorter, since now you know that you technically don't have to pull the bottom off unless you want to just unplug the motor and make it a static prop. And you need to separate the top and not the plastic plate. This. You can do everything while still glued here. Like I said, that's why I do this, to make it easier on you at your house if you want to do it yourself. Feed the wires up and through. And start the reassembly process. Let's check the belt. I'm going to see if I have a replacement belt. See, we should replace that while we're here, since it's such a pain to get into. Looks like all my belts are technically too big. Those are all small drive belts. This one might work. Yeah, this one should work fine. The only reason I'm replacing the drive belt is because it's as old as this unit, and you saw how much fun it is to take this thing apart. Don't want to do it again. There we go. And there's the screw that fell inside. There. I'm going to have to solder the wires. So let's move that out of the way. Move the belt out of the way. Fire up the soldering iron. We're going to have to connect the wires back to make sure it spins in the right direction. So let's do that real fast. So we're going to peel back a little bit of the red and the black. This side is already partially exposed, but we're going to expose a little bit more. Like that. Sliding some heat shrink on them. So. Should be hot. Yeah, it is good. heard that. That was my dog sneezing. There you go. Now I'm just sliding the heat shrink over. That. Use a heat gun or a lighter. I was going to use a lighter. Apparently it's disappeared on me. Oh, I already have it out. So, that. There we go. Alright. Now, let's get this thing back together real quick and do a test run to see how it works. So in taking it apart, instead of going through the center holes to remove the 3 inner screws, just take the outer ring off and do the outer 3 screws first. Then take the 3 inner screws out. There we go. Now, while we took a picture, I have no idea where these gears go. Well, I know where one goes, but... Alright, so now I have my reference picture. Let's try to put this thing back together again. There's the motor. That one go there. And that one go there. I think these are the same. Apparently, it goes under the edge of this. I don't know how I got it out without taking this off, but probably when it fell apart, it was at an angle. So, I'm just gonna... that. And then this one went here. see where I screwed up. When I took the picture, this was still on top. And these gears drive these big teeth here. So alright, take it back apart real fast. Pop out that. Drop in this. Get it centered. Remove the debris. And then drop these back in. And that makes a lot more sense. Here. Yeah. Only thing left is this big gear, which actually attaches to that right there. I don't think I have any other gears missing. Let me double check my picture. Gear, 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 gear. There. Good. I'm going to put this on, which keeps the gears in alignment. That's what this is for. And then we're going to plug it in. Make sure these guys are walking in the right direction. And if they're walking in the right direction, I'm going to pause the video and reassemble this, because reassembly is the opposite of disassembly. Just watch the video backwards. It'll be good. Because I'm sure you don't want to watch me for a half hour, 40 minutes trying to piece this thing back together again. Go. Everything's lined up. It dropped into place. All three screw holes are in alignment, and then the pin that goes right here is in its hole. So there we go. And now we need to plug this into the board. So this will plug into here. Backwards, like so. And we're just going to rest that right there. We're going to watch these guys so they don't get tangled up, and please go the right way. There. Don't work at all. Okay, that's even better. Came unplugged. That would suck if they sent me a defective motor after doing all that work. Making sure nothing's bound up before I tear it all back apart. Making sure I didn't pinch a gear. Yeah, we got good motion. Alrighty. Well, unfortunately, stuff like this happens, so take it apart again. We're going to check it one last time with none of the planetary gears in there before we remove it again here. Everything looks good. So, let me pull this out. I'm going to use some Arduino jumper wires, like so, and I'm going to stick the black in the black and the red in the red. I'm going to turn on my power supply and let's send power directly to the motor. Yeah, the motor's not spinning. It's drawing power, but it's not turning. That's awesome. So, got a bad motor. Probably should have tested it in advance, but I figured, hey, it's brand new. It probably works just fine. Apparently I'm wrong. So, I'm going to do this process all over again. I'll spare you the long, boring process. And I'm going to pull this out and grab another motor, and I'm going to test it before I put it in to make sure it actually turns, because apparently this one doesn't. It's literally a brand new motor. It's a pack of 6 I just opened, so I gotta check the rest of them. So anyhow, I shall be back hopefully with a functioning motor here momentarily. So yeah, sorry about that. Be back in a moment. All right. Here we go. Look at that. Those are spinning in one way, and that's spinning the opposite direction, which is what it's supposed to do. I'm holding the wires up so they don't get caught on the zombies. So this is the slower motor. Like I said, it's 3,000 RPM slower, but it works. And that was the important part. Yeah, it was a bad motor. I should have checked it before assembling all this. I normally check them, but of course, you know, one of the times I don't. It causes the video to be an hour and a half long because, you know, Murphy. If you don't know who Murphy is, he likes to spend a lot of time screwing up people. So it's all screwed back together because I needed to make sure it tested under a clamped load, meaning all the screws are nice and snug. There's no wiggle room. Everything is like it's supposed to be, like if it's OEM. And you just have to turn this. It's 180 degrees out. So it would normally sit in here like this. Like that. There we go. And cutting the wires. So I'm looking underneath to make sure there's nothing going to bind. Yeah, just catching on something. Now I turn it around. Oh, I see. This piece is out of alignment. It's kind of a pain to put in. It looks like it jumped. So, but anyhow, basically, if you buy some motors, test them before you get them. A couple of double A's across the red and black wire, or even a voltage generator, or the 3-volt lithium batteries. They usually run between 3 and 6 volts, so you're good. Yep, that's the problem. So this center gear here has an eccentric that fits in here, and it's not staying in alignment. It popped out, so it must have popped out when I was putting the screws in. So when you put this together, I'm not going to lie, this part is a pain because you can't see the gear and you have to do it by feel. So you have to drop it in and then try and line up the shaft. Actually, does this shaft slide out? Oh my gosh, it does. Alright, so I'm doing it the hard way because I'm a dumbass. So there we go. Look at that. Now it's in alignment. So if you have this piece, push the shaft out. Make sure it lines up. Don't spend 10 minutes like I did because I didn't pay any attention to it. It just slid right out of its hole. God. Sometimes I wonder. But so. And don't turn it on until you have screwed this down because it will jump. And then you have to do it all over again. And like I said, I am not going to glue this top piece back on with anything hard. I'm going to use hot glue and call it good. She's still jumping. Maybe I have one of the lower gears out of alignment. So I'll check that next. But you have a basic idea. Test your motor. You see how much of this you have to tear apart. It's not the easiest piece to tear apart. I'm not going to lie. This is an extremely difficult one. And just take your time. Do it slowly. And if you have any problems, test it, take it apart, fix your problems. I need to see which gear in here is not aligned correctly and causing this to jump. But it's in here. I bet you one of the shafts isn't inside one of the alignment pins. Could have sworn I got them all in there, but you never know. That one, that one, that one. Just going to double check that there wasn't a cracked gear. Yeah, so shaft, 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 and shaft, like that. And just the planetary gear is moving. That's weird. I'm gonna take this gear pack apart and reverse the planetary gears and see if that's my problem. So I'm gonna test it out, and we're gonna get this thing done and put back together, and hopefully the next time you see it, it's fully assembled and fully functional. Be back in a moment. Alright, it is back together. I'm going to tell you, make sure that you have this thing as centered as possible so these guys don't smack it. Outer, inner. I'm going to do one full revolution. I'm going to turn the volume down. There we go. What was causing this to jump was a piece of casting in the gear teeth. That was it. When I took the covers back off that covered the gear stacks, there was a piece of broken resin residue in there. That's what was causing the jump. It wasn't a misaligned gear, nothing. It was literally just trash fell in when I was putting it back together and had to pick it out. So, nothing wrong with the gears. It was just garbage. So, but there it is. It's working like it's supposed to. This is was a pain in the butt. No lie there. A lot of hot glue to reassemble. Like I said, I'm not going to reassemble this with resin or super glue because it needs to be able to come back apart. The motor eventually will have to be replaced again. Same with a gear. They do break. It happens. There's nothing you can do about it. But it's all glued. Let it sit. Bottom's glued. Let it sit. And then centered this top piece with that broken piece of white inner resin. I was able to get this thing as centered as possible so the characters don't smack the corners as it goes around. Sound works. Lights work. Everything does what she's supposed to. I kill some lights so you can see this thing in low light. And one more light. And boom. And now it's just this big blob of green because these green lights are really intense. So I'm going to adjust this light like it's supposed to be, and then I'm going to tip this a little bit so the camera's not blinded by the light. There you go. Light's coming back. There we go. So, Zombie Fortress. How to replace a motor. You turn it on and there's no juice and you have a good AC adapter. Probably a bad motor. Most common issue that causes on Lemax when they quit or fail is the motor goes Goes bad. Shorts out, fills with grease. I know in a lot of forums people don't believe it, but this is now the second one where I literally just unplugged it so you could see, or plugged it back in and saw that it stopped. I know it sounds funny, but electricity wants its least passive resistance back to its home source. So this wire, one side's positive, one side's negative. The electrons are going through, goes through everything here, makes everything do its stuff, and goes back. If the motor is shorted, they'll be like, yep, I can just skip the line and go right back to where I came from, and we're done. And that's what causes the failure. But keeping it plugged in for long periods of time when it's shorted out will cause your AC adapter, the part that plugs into the wall, to get extremely hot and or melt, and worst case it will catch fire. Not as common to catch fire, but it does happen. So anyhow, you saw how to take this apart. If you want to take the bottom off to unplug it, you can to test it, but you basically have to remove this center section. You can leave this flat piece in, and then all the screws are right there. So this is the only part you have to remove, just this. If you want to take this base out, or you want to take the bottom off, more power to you. You saw, if you watched the whole video, you saw that it is not necessary. All the screws are the same except for the 3 that hold the full base into this ring here. So those are 3 button screws. All the other screws are just pan heads, and they're all the same length and same thread pitch. So as far as the bottom goes, take this thing off, pop off the only thing I like about this is the hot air balloon. I really think this is cool. The rest of it doesn't fit my motif, but I do think that hot air balloon is freaking neat. So on the bottom, I'm going to just put a new piece of foam, covers the whole thing, and that'll be all I can do, unfortunately, not knowing that I didn't have to take the whole thing apart. And the flex you see here is this black plate wobbling because there's only 3 screws to hold it, and they're not resined in anymore, so it's not as strong. But you can still lift the whole unit up with the hot glue. It's fine. I wouldn't recommend doing it all the time, because hot glue, like all glues, break down over time. If you're curious what hot glue I'm using, it's a cheap Amazon glue gun that we modified to take DeWalt batteries so it gets hotter. But these are SureBond glue sticks, and I'm going to tell you the SureBond glue sticks outperform every other glue stick I have tried on this channel, and that's all I use now. So they work great. So anyway, thanks for watching this episode. Super long. Zombie Fortress, complete teardown, beyond what it needed, full reassembly, fully functional, bad motor. But now you know how to change your belt, your gears, and your motor if you ever need to on this piece. Thanks for watching. Till the next one.